Historians have characterized the 1970s as a pivot of change. Following the post-war boom of the 1950s and 60s, the 1970s experienced global conflicts and economic upheavals. A nationwide recession and closures of some Longview industries led to hard times and rising unemployment locally. While changes were going on in the outside world, changes and also increased activities were occurring within Longview Community Church. Two senior pastors serving in the 1970s and early 1980s, Dr. Don Irwin and Dr. Ken Working, brought an emphasis on biblical studies and equipping the church members to take more responsible positions. An active Southeast Asian congregation with its own pastor was formed and included numerous church-sponsored efforts to help assimilate newly arrived refugees. Mission outreach under both pastors expanded to become vital parts of church life and included deputation teams to numerous countries. Friends in Self-Help, or FISH, was a cooperative effort with other churches to supply food and other essentials to needy families for 5 days every 6 weeks, and is still an active ministry.
Don Irwin's challenging experiences as a chaplain in Europe during World War II, serving churches amid the civil rights movement, and traveling so many countries to support missionaries, brought to Community Church a man who stood firm in his beliefs and had reached out to others to share his faith. But his greatest joy was in teaching. When Don arrived in 1970, there was not much being done for adult education. He suggested starting 2-year Bethel classes, which studied the Old Testament in the first year and the New Testament the second year, and was amazed when 90 people showed up for the first class. The next year, another 2-year group was started, resulting in 200 people attending the classes. The high school youth group prospered during those years. Loud and boisterous singing began their Wednesday night gatherings, with 60 or more attending. They enjoyed retreats and camps at the beach, Mount St. Helens, and Lake Chelan, and served on mission trips to Mexico and Alaska. The faith of these students grew strong, and after 50 years, many remain active at Community Church and elsewhere. Because so many youth were coming, weekly Wednesday night dinners were started with the main dish prepared in the church kitchen. This evolved into family dinners, and people brought salads and desserts. After eating together, the children went to choir practice, the youth to their programs, and Don taught a class.
Well, women had been on the board of directors since the beginning of Longview Community Church. In 1972, they were included as deacons for the first time. Their service included ushering, serving communion, and making pastoral calls. Women's leadership roles also expanded to include a director of children's ministries and later associate pastor.
We wanted to be more involved in the life of the church, and an opportunity presented itself when the church got handbells in 1972. Originally played by the Temple Singers, youth choirs formed and included the Golden Ringers and Bell System. Sometimes called the Dingalings, we played at church and traveled to various handbell festivals.
Ken Working was already employed as an electrical engineer and married with a family when he decided to pursue his desire to become a minister. He was serving as an associate pastor in California when he received the call to come to Community Church. He accepted and started in 1977. While Don Irwin's emphasis had been on biblical teaching, Ken's was on training and empowering church members.
During Ken's time, small groups continued to grow. Women's ministries blossomed to include a community-wide weekly Bible study with over 100 women attending, which led to an annual women's retreat. To nourish families and marriages, church members established the All-Church Family Camp and an annual couples retreat, both held for decades to come.
Mission outreach was a high priority during both pastors' times. Short-term trips for adults and youth went to Latin America, Romania, Peru, Mexico, Mississippi, Alaska, California, New Mexico, Harambe, and the Los Niños City Dump. After 2 years of intense Old and New Testament Bible study, 21 high school students and 5 leaders traveled to the Holy Land in 1983. The Sylvan Lodge building was donated to the church with a request that the rent be dedicated to supporting missions work. Apartments at the lodge were remodeled to provide housing for 12 developmentally challenged adults, and the first floor was used as a gathering place for Southeast Asian refugees. English classes, as well as the teaching of sewing, cleaning, and landscaping skills, were offered to help these new members of our community become self-sufficient.
Another mission outreach to the community was the establishment of the Lay Counseling Center. It began in 1978 with 15 volunteers who received extensive training and were supervised by a professional psychologist. It continues today and is offered cost-free.
There were some memorable times during these years. Dr. Gebert spoke at the 50th anniversary banquet, and the Gebert Chapel mortgaged was retired. To celebrate our country's 200th anniversary, a bicentennial tea was prepared for the community, and the temple singers offered a special patriotic concert. On Sunday, May 18, 1980, Mount St. Helens really put on a show. The already planned sermon topic, The Mighty Acts of God, was certainly appropriate.
And the real challenge was to realize that people were from so many different backgrounds. The church seemed to be alive and interested in what's happening in the community, and its foreign outreach was tremendous and so forth. And the wonderful commitment of people. I thought there were lots of volunteers that did a lot of work, and there are some persons who took real leadership. I said, I think I'd like to be remembered as a people person. That's what I am, more than program. And I'd like to be remembered as a biblical teacher, more than a preacher, and that I've been a good person walking in the Master's steps.
Don had been a teaching pastor, and people had gotten into the Bible in deep new ways in the Bethel program. And I think they were asking for some help in moving out into mission. What do we do with our faith? Where's the action component to our ministry, to our lives? And we were privileged to come at the time they were asking the questions.
And that was one of our strategies, was to teach spiritual gifts and look at the scriptural basis for calling people into ministry and equipping people where God had already invested His Spirit.
First of all, live a life of integrity before the Lord. I think that's absolutely essential for a pastor. I think secondly is to believe big things of God, and just to believe that we can bear significant witness to Jesus Christ together. To believe that God put something of infinite worth in each person's life, in each person's heart, and call out the gifts. I think if we do that, if we're becoming a community of faith, just walking with excitement with Christ, the major emphasis for me would be worship, mission, and teaching. And we just felt that the healthy family of faith is going to be excited about all those areas.
Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He